You know, we have this rather peculiar idea in our culture that helping others is always the right thing to do. We've been taught from childhood that to be a good person, a spiritual person, a loving person, you must always say yes, you must always give, you must always be available. And if you hesitate, if you pause, if you dare to set a boundary, well then something must be wrong with you. You must be selfish. You must be unkind. But what if I told you that this entire notion is backwards? Machiavelli understood something that most people miss. In his writings, he repeatedly warned leaders against what he called the detriment of misplaced loyalty. He recognized that the people surrounding you determine your fate. Your resources, your time, your energy, they're not infinite. And the person who cannot distinguish between who deserves their investment and who does not is destined for mediocrity or worse. The compulsive need to help everyone, to fix everyone, to rescue everyone is not actually love at all. It's a form of interference. It's a way of disrupting the very lessons that life is trying to teach. When you continually rescue someone from the consequences of their own actions, you're not helping them. You're keeping them trapped. You're preventing them from learning. You're standing between them and the wisdom that only comes through experience. There are certain types of people who will drain you dry. They will take and take and take, and no matter how much you give, it will never be enough. And the tragedy is not that they are taking. The tragedy is that you are preventing them from growing. Let me share with you 6 types of people that you must learn to recognize. Not so that you can judge them or condemn them, but so that you can protect your own energy and allow them to face the very experiences they need to wake up. Number 1. The chronically lazy. There's a difference between someone who is struggling and someone who has simply given up. The person who is struggling will take your help and use it as a stepping stone. But the chronically lazy person, they will use your help as a hammock. They've made a decision, whether consciously or not, that life is too difficult and someone else should carry their weight. The moment you step in to help them, you become that someone else. You become the person they depend on. Not because they cannot do things themselves, but because they've discovered that someone will always do it for them. Nature is very clear about this principle. A bird does not bring food to a chick that refuses to open its mouth. A tree does not continue to nourish a branch that bears no fruit. If something is not producing, if something is not contributing, it is eventually cut off, not out of cruelty, but out of wisdom. The chronically lazy person will always have an excuse. They'll tell you about their difficult childhood, their bad luck, their unfair circumstances. Some of this may be true. But here's the question you must ask. What are they doing about it right now? Are they taking any steps, however small, to change their situation, or are they simply waiting for someone to come along and fix it for them? When you help someone who refuses to help themselves, you rob them of something precious. You rob them of the satisfaction of their own accomplishment. You rob them of the strength that comes from overcoming difficulty. The lazy person needs to feel hunger. They need to feel discomfort. They need to experience the natural consequences of their choices, because it's only when the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the pain of change that they will finally move. Number 2. The perpetually ungrateful. Have you ever noticed that some people can receive an extraordinary gift and treat it as if it were nothing? You could give them your time, your money, your energy, your very heart, and they will take it without a second thought. No, thank you, no acknowledgement, no appreciation whatsoever. This is not an accident. This is a character issue. Gratitude is a sign of a person who recognizes they are part of something larger than themselves. A grateful person understands that every blessing is not owed to them but given freely. And when you understand this, you treat gifts with reverence. But the ungrateful person believes the world owes them. They believe your help is their right. The more you give to them, the more entitled they become. It's a strange paradox. The more you pour into them, the less they appreciate it. When you help an ungrateful person, you're not sowing seeds, you're throwing them into a bottomless pit. And no matter how much you throw, the pit will never be filled. The ungrateful do not see kindness, they see weakness. They do not see generosity, they see opportunity, and they will continue taking until there is nothing left of you. Number 3, the arrogant and self-righteous. There are people who do not want your help. They want your validation. They do not want your wisdom. They want you to confirm what they already believe. If you dare to offer anything that challenges their view of themselves, they will reject you entirely. The arrogant person is not suffering from a lack of knowledge. They're suffering from excessive pride. They believe they already know. They believe their way is the right way, and anyone who suggests otherwise is simply wrong. Machiavelli observed that pride blinds rulers to reality, and it blinds individuals in the same way. Pride masquerades as confidence, but it's actually fear. The arrogant person is terrified of being wrong because their entire identity is built on being right. If they admit they don't know something, their whole sense of self begins to crumble, and so they double down. They defend, they argue, they reject. You cannot help a person like this, not because they're beyond help, but because they do not believe they need it. Until they come to that realization themselves, anything you offer will be wasted. The arrogant person must fall. They must experience the consequences of their pride. They must hit the ground hard enough that they finally look up and realize they do not have all the answers. Only then, when they're humbled, when they're broken, will they be ready to receive help. You cannot help a person like this, not because they're beyond help, but because they do not believe they need it. Until they come to that realization themselves, anything you offer will be wasted. The arrogant person must fall. They must experience the consequences of their pride. They must hit the ground hard enough that they finally look up and realize they do not have all the answers. Only then, when they're humbled, when they're broken, will they be ready to receive help. Number 4, the habitually wicked. There are people in this world who are not confused. They know exactly what they're doing and they do it anyway. The wicked person is not someone who makes a mistake. We all make mistakes. The wicked person is someone who has made wickedness their way of life. They lie, they cheat, they manipulate, they harm others without remorse. And when confronted, they do not repent, they justify. When you help a wicked person, you become an accomplice. You enable their behavior. You give them the resources to continue doing harm. They will use what you give them not to change, but to go deeper into their wickedness. There is a reason why wisdom traditions across cultures warn against supporting those who do evil. It is not because we lack compassion, it is because we recognize that some people have chosen a path that leads to destruction. The wicked person does not want to be saved. They want to be empowered. They want someone to fund their schemes, to cover for their lies, to clean up their messes. If you step into that role, you are not helping them. You are partnering with darkness. Number 5, the incurably foolish. A fool is not someone who lacks intelligence. A fool is someone who refuses to learn. They make the same mistakes over and over again. They ignore advice. They reject wisdom. They touch the hot stove repeatedly and then wonder why their hand is burned. The difference between a wise person and a fool is very simple. A wise person learns from experience. A fool does not. The fool will often come to you in distress. They will be in crisis. They will be desperate. Your heart will go out to them. You will want to help. But if you look closely at their history, you will see a pattern. This is not their first crisis. This is not the first time they have needed rescue. In fact, they have been in this exact situation multiple times before. The fool is like a person drowning in the ocean who refuses to grab the life preserver you throw them. Instead, they keep thrashing and splashing and going under. If you jump in to save them, they will pull you under too. You cannot save a fool. Only life can teach them. Only the consequences of their own actions can break through their stubbornness. Number 6. The Master Manipulator. The manipulator is perhaps the most dangerous person on this list because they are the hardest to recognize. They do not come to you with demands. They come with stories. They do not take from you directly. They make you want to give. The manipulator understands human nature. They know that good people want to help. They know that kind people feel guilty when they say no, and they use this knowledge like a weapon. The manipulator is a shapeshifter. With one person, they are the victim. With another, they are the hero. They change their story depending on who they are talking to. When you compare notes with others who have dealt with them, you will find that the stories do not match. When you help a manipulator, you are not helping a person in need. You are feeding a system. You are providing resources for them to continue their games. The moment you stop giving, the moment you see through the act, they will turn on you. They will paint you as the villain. They will tell others how you wronged them, and they will move on to their next target. This is the niche of human manipulation that has persisted throughout history. So what do we do with all of this? Do we become cold and indifferent? Do we stop helping people altogether? No. We learn discernment. We learn to recognize the difference between someone who is struggling and someone who is stuck. We learn to distinguish between someone who needs a hand up and someone who wants a free ride. We learn to see clearly without judgment, but also without illusion. True compassion is not enabling. True compassion sometimes means stepping back and allowing people to face the consequences of their choices. Because it is often through difficulty, through hardship, that people finally wake up. When you help the right people, you see fruit. When you pour into good soil, you see growth. But when you give to those who are not ready, who do not want to change, who will only use you and drain you, all you will see is waste. Your energy is precious, your time is finite, your resources are limited, and you must be wise about where you invest them. Not everyone deserves your help, and that is not cruelty, that is wisdom. That is what Machiavelli understood that most people miss. That is what separates those who thrive from those who merely survive. Ask yourself today, who am I helping that I should let go? Who am I rescuing that needs to fall? Who am I enabling that needs to face their own consequences? And when you find the answer, have the courage to step back. Not with anger, not with resentment, but with the understanding that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is allow someone to experience the full weight of their own choices.